national resistance movement was put in. Actually, I was called in the NRM disciplinary committee
for failing the elections.
For failing the elections and for the circumstances under which the elections were failed. But I gave them the reasons why I did that.
And you exonerated?
Absolutely, yes, because they thought that it was a patriotic act that I had done
through unconstitutional means.
We did not kill anybody.
The confessions are accepted.
They accepted.
We did not kill anybody.
Yeah.
But at least we created credibility within the party in order the elections not to be for the benefit of only the rich people who are able to go and hide the voters, because that's not what NRM wanted to fight for.
Thank you, Honorable Ddombo. Let me go to Kwezi here. Kwezi, you know, I usually invite you to discuss geopolitics. The war in South Sudan, Congo has gone, but now we're looking at NRM and Uganda's politics. That's the discussion. Not South Sudan, not anywhere. So the violence is within us.
Yes. I think what I didn't hear was what the NRM intends to do with the outcome of this election, because ultimately what is at stake is what will happen in the next 5 years when NRM is given the mandate again. And of course the big elephant in the room is the transition from President Yoweri Museveni, and you can already see it even within SEC. Certain members are being edged out because of age and other issues.
But also the edging out is down to transition.
I think so, and I think that's the biggest issue that NRM is going to grapple with in the next 5 years, and depending on how they handle it, it could shape what the party looks like post Yoweri Museveni. If it continues,
you should have some PLU blood
after
people like Ddombo who have no PLU blood. They are going to be extinct.
I don't know about Ddombo. I don't want to reduce the destiny of Uganda or the destiny of Ugandans to what happens in the NRM or in the NRM primaries. But for me, the concern is that
for us here we're
going into an election.
For us here we can say that Ddombo now means it's going to be an expired species.
Yes, we're going into an election. There are about 2.7 million positions up for grabs, elective positions. That's a significant chunk of people and resources that we're investing in, and election exercises by and of themselves are mobilization exercises. So what are we mobilizing Ugandans to do through their leaders over the next 5 years? Frankly, I don't hear that. And even within the NRM primaries coming to the violence, I think the reason you have these heightened tensions in some of the places like Ssemujju, where unfortunately 2 people mortgaging their properties, other people losing their lives, losing limbs, cars being torched, the country, we're almost at war because we just want to have a democratic exercise. For me, that's the concern. But also for the NRM party, you talk about being in charge for the last coming to 40 years, and every time we head into an election, you see the deployments. It's like Uganda is another South Sudan. You have military on the streets. In some of these, in Zimbabwe, we saw the army shooting at civilians. This is antithetical to what the NRM stands for, which is a pro-people government, and having the army in the barracks and civilians exercising control over the military, but also the absolute disregard to the law and to your own NRM constitution. In some of these elections, I've seen posters of people running in the NRM primaries wearing full military fatigue.
I think that's not proper.
But they are there. Have you sanctioned them as a party? So when you have those instances, for me, it's a cause for worry. The bigger concern is that Uganda is a very young country. We're now about 50 million people. There's a lot more that we need to be doing for our people. But I feel there's a lot of effort expended in electioneering, and we see it in the coverage, even in the media. So for the next 8 or so months until the election, even in the aftermath of the election, all our attention will be on who has won what seat, who is contesting against who. But there are serious challenges that Ugandans are grappling with. Our economy seems to be growing, but it's not creating as many jobs, which is partly why you see so many people rushing into politics, even professionals. I don't know any of you who have political office, Emmanuel Ddombo, Ssemujju Nganda, would leave politics and go into the private sector and retain the same standard of living. and yet you're fairly accomplished professionals in your own right. That's something that should be making you, lose your sleep and seriously think about how can we grow the economy outside of politics so that we can, in a way, reduce the pressure that is on is in our politics, because many people who are heading there, frankly, it's all about payday. Yeah.
Ddombo kind of alluded to it when he said he imagines a time when he's not in politics and all. That's why he doesn't subscribe mainly to these police patrols.
For many people who imagine such a time, it can only be retirement. So there's no active employment outside of politics for many of these politicians, and it's concerning because what it does is that it heightens the tensions in these political races, because it's a do or die affair. You have people literally mortgaging their entire life savings, putting their lives on the line, because this for them means life and death. And I think it's an indictment on the NRM that you've presided over this economy for the last close to 40 years, and you're saying you've improved the livelihoods of Ugandans, where if you go into these rural areas, you see the average voter, the life of the average voter. I don't think that's something that one would be very proud of. Or if you see, some of the more articulate Ugandans, the things they aspire to do professionally, whether it's, serve their country, go into business and all these things, as opposed to politics. I think politics is good, as an avenue for people to contribute to their country, but it should not be the only thing that people do. And because it has become the only thing people do, it's all we talk about, it's all we invest our money in, and everything is limited to 5-year horizons that coincide with political cycles.
Interesting perspective. Got you thinking, Malcolm. But we should tell Kwesi, the strategies, everything, we shall see those later. Let's finish the election, which is in some ways what he's saying. There's, you're looking at employment.
No, I think, Oscar, that some of these are inevitable because of how long the NRM has been there. So you get to asking yourself, is it more of the same over the next 5 years? What is new about this lot that is coming in? And I do agree with Kwesi on a lot of what he has said in terms of what is bringing us to this point. I engaged with some statistics recently, and one that stood out for me was that up to about, I think it was a 2020 study that was done, up to about 40% of the employed Ugandans, the ones who receive a salary through the bank, 40% of them earn 150,000 shillings a month.
The Bank of Uganda Financial Capability Report.
Thank you very much.
It's called the Bank of Uganda?
Bank of Uganda Financial Capability Survey.
So if 40% of Ugandans earn 150,000 shillings a month and below,
yes.
Then you get to understand why no one wants to become a professional. Because as a professional lawyer, I am supposed to provide services to clients who earn less than 150,000 shillings a month. I know one wasn't done for specifically for politicians. If we did that, I am 100% sure they would be in much higher echelons as far as how much they earn is concerned. That tells you that everybody is looking at politics as a cash cow. That is where their eyes are, and this has been orchestrated. It is not by accident. It has been a deliberate way of keeping certain people out of politics. The trouble is that even the young people who there are young people who have access to money now. Maybe the NRM government will take credit for giving them access to money. We won't go into how they access that money. But those that have money now are beginning to challenge the old guard. And that generational battle is what we are seeing. When you look at across all those positions, why they are becoming so competitive, they're actually generational battles. I dare say Kadaga Among is also somehow a generational battle, partly because there's a generation that didn't leave. So the one that was supposed to follow is there, and the one that was supposed to follow that one is also. So you have 4 or 5 generations that are contesting with each other, and there's no one listening to the other. There's no one advising the other. If you have smoother transitions from generation to generation, then you have less high stakes in some of these elections. The violence that is coming in, some of it is from, and I think my fairly nuanced thinking is that away from what Honorable Ddombo said, is that Ugandans actually have always been said to be a very docile population. Very docile. Even our independence was given to us.
We shouldn't say that about our people.
On a silver platter. Yeah, they have been said to be. They are,
but then don't reaffirm it.
I disagree with it. I do disagree with it, but we are not necessarily a violent lot. We are not. And
not because we're incapable.
Not because we're incapable. Yeah. We are kind at heart. Yes. But I think political settlement in this country has been characterized by violence. Let's not pretend it's something that is happening now. Historically, that is how political issues have been settled. Even when you look at the history of the NRM government, that's how political issues have been settled. When the Kwesi talks about the military being on every election, not the one of last year, of 2021, every election has seen increased military presence, participation, and direction. Now
and violence,
and the violence has also increased with increased military participation. So it becomes therefore incumbent on anyone who is participating. Ddombo has here just confessed that he turned to violence when the system wasn't working. Now, if the system is designed to work and you trust the system, when the system seems to work against you, if you're confessing violence as an option, then it becomes open to everybody. You are a leader in NRM. Then you won't blame an LC1 who wants to turn to violence, because that is the option that they feel they have left to them. I think that idea that political settlement has to be violent or is inherently violent unless otherwise is part of what keeps us driving us there. The military gets involved. Again, you have countries where when you're going to run for office, you resign your position.
We used to have it.
You stop being a minister. Meaning you're not going to access the 3 double cabins full of army officers who are then going to start shooting at your opponent. Stop being a minister. Walk away from that and become a civilian like everybody else, and compete. Finally, Oscar. I think that generational issue played out very, very succinctly when it came to the office of the chairman for NRM. Again, you have a young man who is coming. We shall use their narrative that the forms were finished. Finished presupposes that there were several, but I guess they are right. It was one, and it was finished, and it is finished. But the idea that you ring fence, I think that when the competition becomes the highest office has the highest competition. When President Museveni decides that SEC should ring fence, in whether it is legally or illegally, whether it is through legal means or not, should ring fence that position for him. At that increases the stakes. It means there should be no competition. Not even for that office where there is almost an assured landslide.
I'll give you an extra minute on this one, but I think that's okay for their party to say the way we operate is we'll appoint one chairman, we'll ring fence that one, or NUP the way they operate, I think they appoint.
No, I think that is antithetical to democratic processes, because you're appointing someone to go and to go
Pardon?
Honorable Ssemujju has 3 positions.
and he has been appointed to them. No, when you want someone who is going to go and run in an election, connect with the electorate, and expect to actually convince the electorate, not that it's an assured thing. There is actually a stake in there. He has to do the work. Then you would actually want that to be done, because if that is the case, then why doesn't
to the internal structure?
Why didn't it apply to all of them? Then why do we have the second national vice chairperson?
Because their party works like that.
Have to, but that's the point, that there are particular positions which are being handled differently for whatever reasons, and that and whether it is right or wrong, Oscar, it is inevitably creating a high stakes situation within the party, that everybody is trying to out-compete the other, because when you access the resources, when he talks about stake meetings and how they make credible decisions or incredible decisions for this country, they also get a lot of information which we have seen them use to their own personal benefit.
Okay. Honorable Ssemujju, I may disagree with Malcolm, because the NRM party itself has historicals written in their constitution. So,
and veterans.
And veterans. So if they choose to present one candidate, that's their business. So for you in your position in the opposition is to beat that one candidate.
It is not easy.
Let them be transparent
Political
about it as well.
parties,
But they've been transparent. They printed one form.
That's not transparent.
What is not transparent about that one? It's very, very transparent.
It's Oscar. People fighting to go to parliament are not interested in parliament. That's why.
And hold on, before you say people interested, also to disabuse what Malcolm was saying, I think parliamentary turnover is nearly 75%. Like 75% of people in parliament may not return.
50-60.
About 50-60, which is high. So it means that parliament gets new people every cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
The reason I started because we never have quorum in parliament. 529 MPs, but to have 200 would be a miracle. So all of us fighting here to go to parliament, the interest is not in parliament. But let me attempt to give context to what the NRM presents as
and our listener BMK says, at Ssemujju on X, formerly Twitter, in 2005, Hassan Basajabalova did exactly what was done to Emmanuel Ddombo. He took people to Lakeview Hotel in Barra.
So let me attempt to give a context to why politics is the way it is, the fight, the killing. I spoke to the Minister for Gender last week, and she told me in Saudi Arabia, because they're able to track people who go there to work because of the visas they're issuing these days, you have 170,000 Ugandans who are now in Saudi Arabia as maids, askari, etc. 170,000. That number is bigger than many districts. Butambala is 140,000, Karaki, and so on and so forth. In fact, when I was at the PFFA conference, I asked why doesn't Museveni appoint another DC for Saudi Arabia? Because you have a population there bigger than an average district in Uganda. And that's just
there's an ambassador.
So that's just one country. I remember one time the Honorable Janet Mukwaya told the Parliament that the year they had put a ban on people going for what they call the externalization of labor, 40,000 arrived in Oman when there was a ban. So if there is no ban, I don't know. Uganda has people who have qualifications, certificate, diploma, and degrees are 1.7 million. People with degrees are just 600,000. But the economy that the Ddombo's party has built over 40 years is unable even to employ in formal jobs 1.7 million people with the certificate, diploma, and degrees. Government, if you look at the report of the Auditor General, employs about 400,000 people. So people who are fighting to go to Parliament and to SEC and to others are just seeking to access all these opportunities, but also access them for their other people. If I become this, I will have a job as MP for Chira, but I can also go to Ddombo's office to ask for my daughter to be employed, to ask for my niece to be this and that. So this fight is not that people want to fight, that they really have these NRM positions to go and serve an institution called NRM. But we have an economy, as Kwezi said, that is unable to absorb its own, including those that have obtained qualification, and they are in a population of 45.9 million people, and you cannot employ Ddombo 1.7 million who have qualifications. You are a mess. So people are fighting for survival. People in Gaza who are being shot, going to collect food, you cannot say that they enjoy doing that. But those are the only two options that are now available, either to fight and become an NRM, and then there will be an opportunity for you, or to go and die and you are unable to educate your children. So these are the options that the Ddombos are presenting to the country. You fight so hard to become an MP, then you are able to educate your son at a university, or there will be other opportunities. It is not the love. People are not driven by love. So these figures in your official books is what is causing this mess in the country. Otherwise, when Museveni came here, he asked Wavamuno, he asked Lete Mulwana to become ministers, and they refused. And he spoke about it because there was nothing for them. When William Kalema was appointed to the Bank of Uganda board, he came to appear before the parliamentary committee on appointments chaired by Kadaga. Started asking him questions. He told them, guys, I hope you don't think that you are interviewing me. I want you to listen to me how I'm going to help you to sort out the mess in your central bank. The MPs, because they are ordinary souls, they were very angry, disrespectful. And Kadaga said, you leave these Baganda people who went to school. So you never have a conversation when you deal with people who are vulnerable. It is only William Kalema who can tell the parliamentary committee vetting you for a Bank of Uganda governorship job, something like that. So all of us...
Well, the chairman of PLU also called you some names. So
yeah, and you can see why. It cannot be an ordinary soul. It cannot be an ordinary soul. So I thought I needed to explain from my point of view why you have this fight. I chaired a committee in Parliament of 35 MPs. To have 5 to sit and you conduct a meeting, you thank God. The committee will be constituted, and the only time you'll have them is maybe in a workshop, but consistently they are not there. So people are not fighting that they have identified work that they want to go and do, but there is an opportunity for a better salary, but also to access many other opportunities. So this NRM, one other thing that should worry the country, Oscar, for the Ddombos to put together a register, this particular one,
it's commendable.
They spent 42 billion.
Oh,
from where?
Just on the register, 42 billion. These NRM elections, they are a state function. You will have police and military all over. To deploy the military, Oscar, you need to go and look at their operational budget, which was increased now by over, I think, 700 billion. The operation to drive people to all the villages, the police, everything. All the state machinery is going to be involved in these elections. And even the materials, everything that you are doing. So Ddombo, because the Electoral Commission in their strategic plan, they said they needed 2.something trillion for the national elections. Ddombo has told you that theirs is bigger than the one of national election. I have told you the cost of the national election, according to Electoral Commission, 2.something trillion. So I think the Ddombos are going to spend 3 already on a register, and there was no science in it. 42 billion. So what is going to happen is that resources are now going to be taken away from social services to run NRM elections. And in the last election, elective positions in Uganda were 2.7 million. So if you are going to assemble this whole army of everybody participating in an election, and Museveni increasing his budget, because last year he had trillion budget at his residence. Now he has increased the one of military, the one of everything. So at the end of the day, there is no way you're going to get the country out of poverty. Children who are aged 18 to 30 are 10.7 million. 5.2 million, according to UBOS, are not in school, are not in employment. We now have the biggest industry in Uganda is border. 5 million children are in border industry. So this money that we are supposed to take to serve the country is going to run NRM elections, and Ddombo is excited that in an area where an NRM goes through, it is finished. But it doesn't look at the amount of resources that you are taking away from the roads have broken down. So that's why I told Museveni Oscar when we had him here that the Museveni of 86 and the years there was one who was running Uganda as a project. So this particular one is running himself as the project. That's why when Chigon convened the meeting, he dispersed them. It only one form for him. So all of us are scavenging around, pick any opportunity around him, either in the SEC. Because Oscar, people pay to go and meet Museveni. He has said it himself. Some of his assistants, that they make people pay to access Museveni. At least in the SEC where you are 28. I remember when he gave MPs 200 million to change the constitution, all the SEC members complained that you only value MPs. So he gave each SEC member a brand new pickup, a job, and 100 million shilling. If you want to look at the list of those who are in SEC today and see the one who is not a minister, like a Chiwanda, he has a monthly salary and a pickup brand new. So really, where Ddombo you have taken the country, and for me what pains me are people like you who are very intelligent people. You're a guild president, you have a track record in parliament, that you have all become part of it. You're just singing and pushing it forward until when we will crash. And it's inevitable that we will crash as a country. If you look at the resources that we are using in these useless processes, because you started with the electoral college, which was easy and cheaper to manage. Then you went to everybody. The previous NRM election, Museveni ordered that everybody who wants to participate can participate. And they all lined up in all our villages. Now they have said they have a register. So what should worry a Ugandan is not just the death that they are registered, but that their money is being deployed to run this life presidency scheme at the expense of roads and water and health and education, and it's not going to stop.
Honorable Ssemujju, you shouldn't speak about water, because me and National Water, we are in a battle to get, my village, Chigo village, is a very modern village, has tarmac, solar lights,
no water
and
supply.
no water.
No water supply.
Yeah, it is there, but we don't get any. And also electricity is on and off in this modern city of Chigo. But also roads like Chira Road, Old Chira Road, every time. It has the biggest contradiction in this country.
Old Chira Road in town. Yes. When you speak about Chira, people think you're talking about Chira.
No, you're not my village. Old Chira Road, yeah. This one. Kamocha, the one behind the police station. When you drive on it, it is, I don't know, I think it is the worst road in the country. But when you get to the top of it, there are traffic lights.
Yeah.
But then at the traffic lights, there are potholes. But Honorable Ddombo, people are going to murder you on social media. David says, totally disgusting. Mr. Ddombo admitting coming to Capital Gang, using security to clear the way. Right of way. Even NRM Secretary General has no right of way either.
Yes, that is true.
Honorable Ddombo, as a kid, we were asked to do what you want to be. What do you want to become in future? And I said pilot. Today, kids are asked what do they want to be, and I say MP.
Yeah.
As that was Norman Magembe. Asima Innocent says, imagine one with an equivalent of S6 earning over 30 million. Professors are earning less than 10 million. Guys, let's fight to join politics. Let's stop. Then I'll go to the opposition.
I want to appreciate and thank my dear friends here for the intellectual discourse that we're having. Some of the things are factual and they cannot be disparaged, and some of them the president has repeatedly kept saying them. When President Museveni came here in 1986, government was the biggest employer. And everybody has been crying over the same jobs. when they did the public sector reform and they retired off the people who are old and got in young people, he asked them, when will the Gombola chief retire in order to create another job? So we must drive the private sector, because the leading employer worldwide is the private sector and is not government. This is something that had been ideological in the minds of the people. Everybody thought that in order to get a job, you must get to government. That's why even some members of parliament, I mean some people who aspire to come to parliament, they still have the same ideological disorientation that government should be the biggest employer. In 1996, when I was first elected in parliament, there was no violence in elections. And at that time, when I was Ssemujju, remember you are still a student by then, but members of parliament were being paid as a branch of, I think, the president's office. We are not even a statutory agency in government. And whenever there was a budget cut, they would even suspend parliament until such a time when money would be available. Progressively, the remuneration and perks of members of parliament has changed. And this in itself has incentivized the struggles that are happening in the respective constituencies, because parliament is now viewed as one of the leading employers within the country. One of the highest paying agencies in government. That is true. So that's factual. But the question is, how do we change this? Because that's the areas that we must be addressing. When addressing this, you know, Ssemujju says this. It's as if he's talking about members of parliament from NRM. But it is the same thing for members of parliament, even those from the opposition. They tell you that they are going to parliament to fight President Museveni, but when the real fight is this one, they are looking at the perks in parliament, medical allowances, and also treatment abroad, and whatever has happened out there. Together, we must begin rethinking the way we remunerate members of parliament. Is it the best way that it should be done? You know that when we were in parliament, Honorable Ssemujju, there have been an attempt to propose a remuneration board for the whole country to review how public servants are paid, including other agencies of government. You can get to the office of the IGG and other parastatals, and you get a lawyer who qualified, two lawyers who qualified at the same time. One lawyer is employed by the Attorney General's office chambers. One is employed by an agency in government. But when you look at the disparity in the salaries, it is not something that is healthy. It would even make somebody in the Attorney General's chamber to think, but is it the same law we studied? Did we go to the same law school? There are things that must be fixed, and members of parliament should help us. When you are discussing these things, how best can we fix some of these issues? The other issue I want to tell you is that democracy is expensive. In NRM, we attempted to create this voting by lining up, purely because we could not sustain the quantum of money that would be required to fund a credible election through a secret ballot system, and the things that would be required to do that. So when you look at the lining up system, it is being forced by the economic circumstances within the country, and the NRM chose to say no. How can we do democracy and enable all people to make decisions, but at a cheaper cost? But without knowing that it also has its own consequences that we are progressively finding out, and could be at the Central Executive Committee level and other recommendations which are coming in, we should be able to fix some of the challenges that create violence within the elections, so that progressively Uganda can be a better place to live in. Recently, when the president was returning his forms, he introduced a new word to those who are attentive and they listen. He called it jobology. He said many people are aspiring and bringing forms and looking for elective offices because of jobology. To me, this is very, apart from people thinking that they can only get to government to get jobs, to get this number of people aspiring to make a contribution to their country is something that must be, that is tremendous. But a bigger problem goes to the nature of education and the way people have been brought up. You go to the universities. The other day I was at one of the universities in the country, and I looked at the people who are being graduated and the courses that they were graduating in. And I said, so, in the job market, who will employ these people? Because there is a mismatch. In Uganda, we are importing things from China, we are importing things from Indonesia and other countries. But we are not investing in manufacturing these things here so that we can save this money and create market for our people. The new...
I need to come in at this point. I think, Honorable Ddombo, let's stop gaslighting the young Ugandans who are going to these universities, because even in other China is the factor of the world. Even the United States, Europe, and all these other countries, most of the manufacturing is happening in China.
Yes.
When Americans or Europeans talk about jobs, they're not talking about graduates and all kinds of people. In fact,
they are looking at manufacturers.
Over 60, not even manufacturers, over 60% of the people that enter the job market, their highest qualification is a high school diploma. So the reason that Ugandans are not getting jobs, it's not that they're not going to the universities or they're not studying, quote unquote, the right skills or courses. It's that, like Ssemujju has said, the economy is virtually non-existent. Because the industries you talk about cannot be willed into existence. They need to have a supporting infrastructure. You need to have roads. You need to have energy, power, and all these things. Uganda, if you look at energy access, it's still about 22%.
We are an agricultural country. I was in Chazanga because of the dry spell. They have cut the maize, so the season is dead. We receive the highest amount of rainfall in the world. Irrigation and NRM is at 2%. So you're talking about rate courses. Well, the rate courses
and water harvesting,
use of fertilizer, everything else.
So just see, rain and water in Uganda.
So this is not an NRM opposition debate, but I think something we should be looking at as Ugandans, as Uganda, or as many of these poor countries that have stagnated for the last 30 years, that it's not that students are not studying the right courses, because you've told them to study sciences, they've studied sciences. Doctors now cannot get employed in government.
They can't even take them for internship.
Even engineers, oil was a big thing 15 years ago. You sent kids to go and study oil. They can't seem to find the jobs because the sector is not picking up. So the issue is not what you choose to study or not, but creating as many opportunities as possible so that Ugandans, whichever skill they choose to acquire, they will get opportunities that match that skill.
This is a discussion we shall have. I want Honorable Ddombo conclude on NRM.
I want to conclude. I want to thank them. What they have, this is complementary, because the economy has got a number of challenges. Because in order to recruit people, there must be ability to pay. Honorable Ssemujju is a member of parliament, and I've been looking at the budget of Uganda. Unfortunately, the people of Uganda, when they talk about absorption and payment, they look at the expenditure side. But in order to expend, you must earn and have that as income in order to be able to pay. Why would you train doctors and not recruit them when all the hospitals in Uganda and health facilities, they are capitalized up to about 25%, 35%.
No, that's the question we're asking.
If they went, so
you said they didn't study the right courses.
So government, in order to pay, they must earn money. And that money must be earned within the structures of the economy. And that is why...
Where do they deploy it?
Yes. And
that's why Ssemujju is the member of parliament. He's asking me as if I'm the MP. You are the one who makes the budget. And then where do you deploy it?
Then we are ordered that...
Where do you deploy it?
Tamper with my
So you just Honorable Ssemujju. Let this be the last. You know, when I was a member of parliament, you know that at one time we progressively engaged the government and changed the money from various sectors, but through agreement. Unfortunately, the way you people were doing it this time, you would sit and connive contrary to what the budget government has brought, and you begin allocating money to areas of expenditure when government is not prepared for that absorption. No. The issue is concurrence, because if you are allocating money, you listen.
Ddombo Emmanuel.
Let me listen. Just wait.
The money that we are asked to restore was money to complete the health infrastructure. You see, you have constructed a Sagiko ward in Mbale. It is at 94% complete. It's not functional. Then we said complete them. And Museveni said you are tampering with my priority. What were his priorities? Giving 700 billion to Magola, giving 102 billion to Rocco, giving money to Peneti. Really, this parliament is a mess, but you can't compare it to the executive. This is where the money was brought and taken.
Honorable Ssemujju,
Yes.
and Honorable Ddombo, you are diverting us.
No, Ddombo is not diverting us. Yes.
Yeah, that's what.
I am actually trying to recover here.
When you look at the
Honorable
number,
Ddombo, let us pause this discussion because it's a big discussion for a good day. I want to look at what the opposition is doing now. Honorable Ssemujju,
Yes.
your party, PFF, you've had a delegates conference. In addition, you've signed, what is it, an MOU?
Cooperation.
A cooperation
Agreement. Yes.
with ANT.
Yeah.
But is it a reunion or cooperation? You call it
FDC
a reunion. The new FDC reunion. But you've not signed a cooperation with FDC or DP or UPC. I see Abed Bwanika, Dr. Abed Bwanika is also at war with NUP. So it is not well in the opposition side.
I agree. The last time I visited the Dr. Wesigye in Ruzira, he told me you should be aware of conflicts that are constructed by the Ddombos. And he said if you spend all the time quarreling with each other, they are the happiest people in the world. So the parties in Uganda are still weak, and they are in most of the African setup. That's why I've told colleagues, in Malawi, to stop Bakiri Muluzi from clinging onto power, it took the participation of the clergy, the civil society, the media, and everybody. Even to stop Chiruba in Zambia was the same story.
Kenya as well, but then they fell out after.
Yeah, so the parties as they are now, collectively, we are still very weak. I can tell you, even to have a meeting like the one we had at Katonga, you need to raise money from everybody, including participants who are coming. So this time you're asking them, you must meet your transport costs, no accommodation for you. And this is happening in all the parties. The Ddombos in the 7th Parliament, through the Political Parties and Organizations Act, they had put in the law public financing of political parties. But largely, I think, in my view, because Museveni didn't want the money that was going to NOP, even that they have changed. So you deal with a population that is very poor. I have told the people, I go to churches, to mosques as a leader, and the highest amount that they are donating sometimes is 5,000, 1,000, 2,000. And then you have Ddombo, who is oiled by the state. In fact, for them, they never even discuss budget. Ddombo cannot bring you here in a minute that the NRM secretariat sat there to discuss a budget for this and that. For them, they just go and present to the owner, and then the money is going to be made available. So my disappointment is that first, the civil society, the clergy, the academia, you all have abandoned the work of fighting government and putting pressure on government to function to political institutions that are themselves weak. And those of us who are running them, I don't want to claim that we are running them better. So we are also in the same crisis as the Ddombos, but the only difference is that theirs is a choice. Ours is a crisis that we have been plunged in. You try to survive, try to speak to each other. We went to speak to the Muntus, and in our conversation, the biggest conversation was not even about the next election, but the fear that this country may implode one day, because that's what has happened to all the African countries where one man runs the show for centuries. Sudan, Zimbabwe, and in the conversation we had with the Muntus was
if
that
you can't speck to Right Honorable Mpuga or Dr.
we are speaking to each other. We are speaking to each other. That's why I told you, but we said those of us as Ddombo clearly said,
and they are posting anti-Bongoya messages every day. So
that for you,
what speaking to each other is that?
That for you, since you are of the same background, why do you even waste the time of other people? Let's first get together and then go collectively to speak to others. That we have done. And we are speaking to others. We hope for the first time you can have the opposition unite, if not around the joint candidates, at least around some issues. Because in these elections we have faced and we will face the same problems. Look at the recent elections of the special interest groups. And one thing that has happened, it is exciting but it's problematic. The Ddombos, through police under the Crime Intelligence Directorate of now newly promoted Major General Damulira Christopher, they have recruited the vulnerable people they call ghetto, but they have recruited mainly the criminals, that they were ferrying from one polling center in the Kampala metropolitan, to disrupt elections. They continue. The one that you saw on the street robbing people. 2 days ago, Museveni was in my constituency and I was celebrating. After his address in Kasokoso and his SFC withdrew, because they had ferried them in big numbers. They pounced on the population, went with their phones, went with their wallets.
Again?
Yes. They can't stop. They can't stop. So that's how we are going to do politics. For them in the metropolitan, they can no longer use police in their uniforms and military. So they have deployed and they are known. One time I was speaking to police and they told me they know them. You need to ask Bate Beck. They went ahead with his laptop and the police through their network was able to establish who had taken it and actually they returned it. So police knows who they are. So but the point is, Oscar, I worry, yes, about my political parties where I belong, but also I worry, and Ddombo does. Ddombo was the chairman of PAFO, eventually that I formed FDC. This is the founder of FDC. This Ddombo you see here. He was the chairman of the Parliamentary Advocacy Forum. I was a journalist in the Parliament. He did not cease being NRM, but at that time the debate in Parliament between NRM and opposition was about the future of Uganda.
You know that FDC is the powerhouse in Parliament. The speaker, deputy speaker.
No, these ones
not just Ddombo.
These ones have left FDC.
Yeah.
I mean, I've left FDC to go and join NRM.
Right.
But Ddombo founded it, this one here. At that time, they were preoccupied with the future of Uganda. And I want to thank them. Those of us who are in politics now, I think majority of us are just looking for the opportunity to be, because if you look at the informal discussions in Parliament when the Ddombos were there, and today I think now we are looking for money. Them every evening, these Ddombos, NRM, opposition, they were discussing how do we secure the country, something that has died completely, Oscar. So you shouldn't worry about us, worry about Uganda.
I'm reading a State House Uganda post on X, formerly Twitter. You elected opposition members of Parliament who, after getting their salaries, don't mind about your issues.
That's what Museveni said in my constituency. He said, this MP of yours here, he
but you have just said it yourself here.
He doesn't follow PDM. he only earns a salary in Parliament. As if I am supposed to be the one following PDM. But largely, that's what we have become. If I compare the Parliament in which I am and the one I covered as a journalist, things have changed. So, Oscar,
let me ask these people about
the parties as
opposition parties.
They were supposed to have been a collective effort to build them as institutions. I think that project has failed. So we are just
it is there on paper, but crazy on the opposition parties.
I mean,
they seem even more fractured.
I don't think there's anything to gain in focusing on their weaknesses because they already find themselves in a disadvantaged position. So it doesn't help the debate. But I think one positive thing I saw is this alliance between PFF and ANT, because previously in the last election when it was still FDC before the split off of ANT, you thought that the differences were too big to address. So it's good. Maybe it's coming a little bit too late that the two combined cannot even equate half the strength of the FDC only 5 years ago. But it's a good move, and I think what follows next is what is the conversation around which these political parties are coalescing. My biggest fear is that Ugandans, out of frustration, may lose faith in the political process and pursue other means of achieving whatever ends they want to achieve. And I don't think we want to get there as a country. So if our political class does not wake up and realize
we
that
don't have that ability to pursue using other means.
Well, they can. It has happened in other countries that have imploded, and I don't think Uganda is immune to that. I was away for a year, but when I came back, I was moving in some of the suburbs in Kampala, and I was amazed at the number of Sudanese we have in Kampala. Professionals. You go to all these cafes, you meet professionals from Sudan, lawyers, teachers, and doctors, and all these kinds of people. I mean, 7 years ago, these people had a country that was way better than many of the countries in our region. I don't think they anticipated that their country would cease to exist. Khartoum right now, in many ways, looks like parts of Gaza. So to say that our political class needs to be alive to the realities of what our people are going through, it's not a wish. It's actually a cautionary tale that, look, we have got to create opportunities here for some of these Ugandans, or at least try to, because it's like a pressure cooker, relieve the pressure that is building up. And if I was to characterize Uganda with our population bulge and all these other young people that are coming, it's like we have a giant A380 plane and we are running out of runway. So the runway is short, this plane is coming, and then all of us are saying, no, we'll continue doing things the way we were doing. All you need is more PDM, sink more trillions into PDM. But we're running out of runway. And at the end of that runway is a giant lake. So we might easily end up there. And not to say that it's only the Ddombos that are charged with that responsibility, but frankly, where Uganda is now, I don't think it's even useful to say NRM has won the election, NUP is the biggest party in parliament, because the challenges that we face may actually force us to start thinking of possibly a coalition in the midterm, sometime in 2027, where some members of the opposition, whether formally or informally, come together in some kind of coalition government to seriously reduce the tensions and the pressures amongst our people, so that people do not see opposition to government as rebellion, or people do not see rebellion as an option for them achieving their means. And we're about to get there. I was talking to one of the officials in one of the embassies here, and they were telling me in the lead up to the previous election how a group of representing one of the political parties actually approached them and said, we know you've given Museveni support. We don't want money from you this time around. We want guns.
Aye.
So we can because we realize elections, and that number used to be a minority who believed in that way of doing things. But unfortunately, because of the conditions that we've created in this country, a lot more people, especially young people who are not alive to our history as a country, are still excited by such ideas and somehow think that should the political option fail, we should not rule out the other options. So for me, that's a concern for political actors, that you can continue playing this game because you are assured of a position in parliament, but if it continues, your own position in parliament may not exist 5 years from now.
Malcolm?
Yes,
You started the perfect list of Uganda.
I agree entirely with Kwesi, and I think that the situation that has been created in the country, the age group that knows what happened before 1986 is quickly shrinking. The bigger number of the voters today do not know about 1986. So the savior mentality that NRM continues to attempt to wield over Ugandans cannot have the same effect as it did 20 years ago. How are we, as actors in the political space, how are we alive to the needs of Ugandans today? When you're when you're building a middle class, with all due respect to border riders, a middle class of border riders, because the middle class is a transformative mass group of people that can collectively drive an economy. If you pulled out the 5 million border riders that you talked about, if you withdrew that economy from Uganda, there would be trouble. They are a big group of people that spend quite a bit of money amongst themselves, with supporting different parts of the economy, agreed. But when that is the skilled labor that we have, then there is a challenge. And which takes us to why it is important for the political parties to come together. Now, the NRM has obviously flattered to deceive for a very long time and continues to, that they are an inclusive, group of people. You come on board, we work together. We all know what has happened to those who have thought that is possible. The opposition has attempted to come together very unsuccessfully in the past, especially the post multi-party politics time. Honorable Ssemujju refers to the PAFO days. PAFO was I think pre-multi-party politics time. It was however much we want to demonize the single party system, the alleged no party system, the alleged no party system. What it was, and I've thought that its ethos was actually right. That for a long time there was a lot of division, and we want to sort of draw back those divisions and see people for who they individually are, what they bring to the table. That's what makes an NRM leaning member of the no party system sit at the same table with an opposition, alleged opposition. Again, civil society was the opposition at that time, and they come and have a conversation for the direction of the country. I worry as well about the levels of.
Let me interrupt you there.
Yes.
Just hold that thought, and we'll finish it after the break. I have Chris here says, greetings at Ssemujju. Okay, please, Old Kira Road is not the worst. The worst road in Uganda is Mitiana Fort Porto, and yet that's Uganda's tourism city. I had planned to take my hero, MP Ssemujju, but we shall have to wait for long. The worst scenario is our airstrip in Saka was also grabbed by the army, and Chris goes on. So let's stop.
Yes, Oscar.
I want Honorable Ddombo to finish this, and then we talk a little about fake things in intelligence.
Yes. No, the thought that I wanted to share was the level of hegemonic control that our politics has characterized our politics with the NRM, and is also very capable of doing the same with the opposition parties, where you have one particular leader that exercises full control over a political party, and the ring fencing begins. Everyone who opposes is an enemy begins, and that is a huge recipe for challenges. Partly also because you then have egos clashing. It then becomes about the people and not about the ideas. And that's why we were saying at the break that if there can be a sense of coalescing around actual issues like Honorable Ssemujju has suggested, and there are some NRM MPs who see some of these things, and those issues can then drive a sense of togetherness, and who knows, maybe again, like midway the next term of office, something different happens. But between now and election time, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Emmanuel Ddombo.
Oscar, first of all, I want to correct one impression which my brother Honorable Ssemujju did mention. The National Resistance Movement has got a formidable full-time secretariat that is adequately remunerated and runs the affairs of the party through very legitimate means, by formation, developing of a budget, recruitment of staff, payment of taxes, and doing all the things that we must do as an organization. But going to the subject that we're discussing, all of us are discussing one thing that President Museveni has repeatedly told the people of Uganda, that we must deal with the poverty. Honorable Ssemujju has told you that the members of parliament are running away from poverty, thinking that they will overcome it through parliament. President Museveni thinks that we must go through PDM and other wealth creation programs in order to fight poverty. We are saying that the young people in Uganda don't have jobs because they don't have income, but all this is because of poverty. The border industry, border previously, the way people become border, someone may want to disparage it. But this is a very big industry that is providing service to these people. They are consuming petrol and they are paying taxes through the consumption of petrol. They are providing a service to the people of Uganda. The only question would be, how best can we improve it? Because this is transport. This is an industry of transport being done borders. Is there a way we can improve the transport sector better or more than what is right now border is providing? Otherwise, to disparage them and think that they are not doing a good thing.
Even the children who are working as maids, after tourism and gold, they contribute the highest
contribution.
So we should celebrate children going to become maids because they are sending money home. Is that what you are saying?
Have we banned it?
So is that something to celebrate?
No, have we banned it? Because it is a contribution to the economy. And we must be happy because they are contributing. Otherwise, if they were seated here, would they be doing that?
Give up.
Because this is a debate you must be doing in the parliament. And but on the issues, the final one which I want to say here
on the opposition, yes.
On the opposition,
yeah.
Oscar, opposition is trying to run away from poverty by trying to agree whether they could have joint candidates. There is a fundamental problem in the politics of Uganda, and that is the politics of hatred. Honorable Ssemujju will tell you that at the time I was chairman of PAFO, we would meet with everybody in Uganda. And we did not have any restrictions that we wouldn't talk to President Museveni, don't talk to Besigye. Actually, there was an attempt when Besigye was launching his first camp, when he was in a hotel. Is it Serena? Not Serena. Sheraton Hotel. At that time, I was in Parliament, and there was an attempt by the chairman of NRM then to convince some members of Parliament not to go there. He said, no, we shouldn't. Let's us go and listen to Honorable Besigye and hear whether he has any alternative for this country and whether the position he's giving is right. But what did Besigye do when he became chairman of FDC? He said that he cannot meet President Museveni unless this and this and this is fulfilled. For us, we didn't give conditions to go and listen to him. So that is the biggest challenge you have in the country, that people don't want to talk to one another, they don't want to listen to one another, and now they have reduced Uganda to saying Museveni must go, and when Museveni goes, everything must collapse. This stability here, Museveni has been part of the process that has created stability. Those Sudanese you saw here running away from their oxygen, they have oxygen in their country, but they come here to enjoy the oxygen in Uganda because there is a reason why they must come here to Uganda. So the question is,
you're preparing us to go to Burundi.
So the question is, if we must transition, Museveni is a human being. Time will come when he will not be here. The debate we must be talking is not meeting and talking to Museveni, but post Museveni, when that time comes, what should Uganda be? But having members of the opposition wanting to enjoy the salaries in Parliament, when money for iPod comes in, they go and pick the money for iPod. But when it comes to meeting and doing dialogue together, they say we're not going to do that. That's not good for the country. It's the one which creates a problem. Otherwise, the common denominator is poverty. We must all agree on how we are going to fight poverty. And the NRM has prescribed that there are basically 4 ways where we must fight poverty. 1, through commercial agriculture. 2, through industrialization. Through the provision of services and the development of ICT, through which we must have the knowledge economy and create more jobs.
Thank you, Honorable Ddombo. You should have seen the way Kwesi was looking at you.
I would feel the look.
You could feel the look. Because if he was a teacher, he was going to give you something like 10% on your achievements on the 4 for effort. So we Kaptogang, we have to move quickly and let's begin with you, Kwesi. If reports have come out and they have been acknowledged now that there's been, I think they use the word fakery, that kind of new to me, but there's corruption and fake reports coming from defense intelligence. What does that mean?
I wish I had a better idea on what that means.
I thought you would know.
I saw the videos of the alleged bombing in Entebbe, and for me, I guess the conclusion from all this is that it's not far removed from what we're discussing in the last 3 quarters of the show, that this is a problem that has metastasized like a cancer to so many other sectors. So it's what you pick and choose. If you pick Makere, it's most likely the same problems. If you pick the healthcare system, it's the same problem. So the security services would not be saved from that problem if it's corruption or the hollowing out of this public spiritedness. There is no singular aspiration for what we're building as Ugandans, what Uganda we are building. Everyone is in it for themselves and for their tribe. And I use tribe not in the sense that we understand it, but everything has been tribalized in the sense that, we are this group or we share these particular concerns. So that's how you see the different groups. We're veterans, we fought this and that. So that becomes our tribe. We are market women and all these kinds of people. We are this other group of people. We are the educated. We are not educated. We went to school here. We didn't go to school there. So the idea of what Uganda is and what we should be contributing to, I think, has diminished. And because it has diminished, you end up having short-sighted people who think that the most important thing for them is a paycheck or an opportunity to make money here and there. And I guess you end up with the kinds of mistakes they are making because they are not looking at what is the strategic end point of this. Because if your aim is to make money out of these alleged bomb plots, but Uganda is losing because there's a tourist, there's an investor who has been trying to set up shop in Uganda, and now they're thinking, but if bombs are going off left, right, and center in Kampala, why should I set up my business in Uganda? So for me, I hope that this story is not true, because if it is true, I can only imagine how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Malcolm?
You might have wanted to go to
Ssemujju, you sit on the committee that looks at what is it called, classified budgets and all that, because this is the money that was stolen apparently.
They have never appointed it.
So when you question these defense chiefs when you're approving their budgets,
these days they no longer come. They will arrest us.
I've never seen Ssemujju this meek.
You said you will be arrested, so you no longer call them.
But then in a way you're complicit, because you give them these budgets and you're supposed to do the oversight function on behalf of all of us Ugandans. So if this money is being misused,
there's so much about Uganda that is not the way it should be or it is supposed to be, and Parliament is certainly no exception. I agree with you that it's a cancer, it's a disease that is spreading. We know the ghost teachers, workers, soldiers, junk this, fake that in every other sector, and now it has reached the security. Allegedly.
Sorry, short. I hope one of these days you invite someone from defense. Our choppers are falling out of the sky every now and then. I think in the last year we've lost 5 choppers. So you can, when such stories start, you start trying to draw links and wonder, okay, is there someone siphoning fuel or buying junk parts again?
No, and you worry about, because I think that for probably the longest time, one of the things that the NRM government had prided itself in was its ability, its intelligence network. That whatever the issues are elsewhere, you can sleep comfortably at night. You know that we have information on who is coming in and who is going out. Now, if that information is, and the story that is going around is very interesting about false, intelligence, double agents, and things you watch on in a spy movie somewhere, and things we know that ideally would be happening in Uganda, but had the faith that the government was on top of all of this. So you worry about it being true and what that means. How far back does it go? The current holders of office are the ones who are being arrested, but the informants who have been giving false information have done so for over a longer period of time. So how far back does this intelligence lapse go, if it is true, and how deep does it go as well? I think that the level of emphasis on security, on the army, on professionalization of the army has turned it into an ordinary institution. They have become like an agency of government. When you have them involved in agriculture, they're the ones who are doing the fishing on the lakes. You have them building Nambole. The level of interaction with state institutions has and yet they still in practice occupy a certain level of authority that over civilians. That kind of interaction exposes them to so much else. Again, if the discipline is right, it would mean that some of these actions were orders from somewhere else. If the discipline is right, as it should be.
There's a mistrust of a citizenship, and that's why they employ the army to do all those things.
Well, that is one school of thought. The other is that the army is not held accountable for anything, and so anything can happen in there, and it will be dubbed classified expenditure. You will call the generals to come and explain it, and they won't come, and we shall move on to the next issue. Yeah.
Honorable Ssemujju, corruption in high offices and fake reports.
I think it's not new.
Really?
I have said here, I think after retirement they promoted him up to Major General. I don't know if they are still promoting him. Mujenyi was the finance officer when Tumukunde was, I think, in CMI and ISO. They were the ones fighting bombs in Kampala. I did urge here that my suspicion then as a journalist was that some of the bombs were thrown by them. Because they became very rich. Mujenyi bought Chiseka, they were buying everything. And I think at that time they had a classified budget of 600 million. It used to be a lot of money per week. And then you go back to the Ghost Soldiers report done by Mbabazi Saleti Nyefuza, in which they estimated that we lost 600 billion shilling. If you can even stretch it back to the time when Muntu was army commander, and then you had a committee where the Kanobogere served that went around to see and in a Teso where we were supposed to be executing a rebellion. You had Chefe Alia and Rakala na Kebas. When they reached there, because they went with all the equipment they needed, that you're going to pay each soldier physically. And the soldiers were not there. So what Rakara na Kebas and Chef Ali is dead, did was telling the group that they went and poured some beans and flour somewhere and said maybe they were here. Then they were embarrassed. Then they arrested the team that came to pay. And then Serwanga, who was in Mbale, was called that a team sent from Kampala is being arrested. So UPDF has been a very big enterprise. Both Museveni uses it, and the trouble is that when you have Museveni using the military, abusing the man of the military and his brother and children and so on and so forth, the rest of the soldiers will do the same. One time here, 21 of these elections, I remember, when they stole 36 billion from Narweiso at Okero House. So the major who was involved in that I'm not even sure whether it was a robbery because he was the one responsible for providing security. He told these other young soldiers that people are making money when we are just here doing nothing. So the money they were supposed to protect, they picked it, and then he told these other young juniors that you take some money, go and sit at Serena, I'm going to come, I arrest you, put a field court martial, sentence you to 6 months, but you will all walk home with 1.5 billion. So that's what they did. And I told the MPs one time...
And these are facts?
Oscar, I have been a journalist all my life. I just joined politics yesterday. The MPs, when they went to Bwebaja to receive money of the removing age limit, because they were walking in, guarded by SFC, you walk in with your bag and they feel you go back to your car. I told one of them one of these days you're going to be shot. That these soldiers who are paid 300,000, they protect you, guard you, for you walk in with a bag and then walk out with said one of these days they are going to shoot you, so when you go to pick that money. So the soldiers themselves see their bosses up swimming in the money. In fact, that's the word that Major used, that these guys are swimming in the money. So these ones of fake bombs, it's not the first time, because let anyone give us a report about the bombs that were being thrown now in Tax
and the people who died.
Yes,
I think that's the pity about it.
Yes, when Tumukunde was there, and
no, we're talking about these recent.
No, I'm telling you the history that this recent one, for them killing for money really is a simple thing, because they must frighten you, they must create an impression that the country is under attack, and then the money for classified expenditure will now be eaten. It will not be financing only Ddombo's election.
Is it a good thing now that there's some kind of investigation into them?
It has always been there. I have told you the Ghost Soldiers report.
Yeah.
I have told you the story of Naruis and others. The Wasarule, who was the deputy IGG to Zindana, when he was sacked, they didn't even give him transport. He walked to Rubaga. He said the corruption in this government is licensed for some. That's why when Sare was given money executing away in northern Uganda, Museveni told him, you can use that money to improve the soldiers' welfare. Remember that story of Sare. But the others, they ended up being arrested, this one from Buwejo and others. So Wasarule summarized it very well. Corruption is licensed for some. So if this Ddombo messes up, you will be Niruzira. But there are others who will mess up and then they will be promoted.
Let's go to Honorable Ddombo. Is it a good thing that this is now revealed that there's a problem, there's been corruption and fake reports, and is it good that an investigation is ongoing?
An investigation that is intended for a good purpose and brings out the details.
So just before, let me, Honorable Ddombo, just 1 second. There's Nahamia Godfrey says, this message is on Exodus to Ssemujju, Honorable Ssemujju Nganda, who continues to undermine the border community. Yet he has thousands of borders in and outside Kampala.
Doing what with them? I don't even have half a border.
You know, Oscar, some of these investigations and the information on social media is not official. And it is difficult to tell.
But the arrest of the soldiers is official.
I'm saying some of the information on social media is not official. And some of the purported findings.
There's a document.
It will therefore require somebody in the know or somebody authorized, like the Minister of Defense, to either to address Parliament or at one time the Commander-in-Chief himself, one time the head of state, to come and talk about these issues and give assurances to Ugandans. Because if this is reported and yet to us, one of the leading things that we have been proud about the UPDF and the country is the state of security in the country. And when it is fought and it is reported that part of the insecurity has been caused by the people who are supposed to provide security, then it should worry the people. But if UPDF can contain it, like it has done up to now, this is something good that is credible. And we'll ask the members of Parliament to continue financing the security agencies, but also...
Please don't finance.
But also, that is financing. That's the power of the past. what says in Parliament. But also to make a follow-up and find out.
Any power. Even when you are there, jets were bought without your approval.
When you were in Parliament, we set up that committee.
Let me switch off Honorable Ssemujju's microphone.
When you were in Parliament, we provided that even the classified expenditure should be audited. That is something which is statutory. Let the members of Parliament do their work. They should not hide behind the CDF not coming. If the Minister for Defence has come, let them question the Minister for Defence. If they must threaten that they will not give money until certain things are done, let them do their work. Because I've told people on this show before that if President Museveni could offer himself and members of Parliament of various select committees, he has appeared before them. And he has been questioned and he has answered. He has provided answers. Why should any person say that they can't answer certain questions, they can't do this? Because this is the pride of the national resistance movement, and this is the security that we all enjoy. So let something formal come out, and they tell us how far has the investigations gone, and who are the culpable people, and what has been done in order to ensure that it may not reoccur again.
Kwezi, you started the discussion. Conclude it.
Yeah, it's like I said. For me, the biggest concern is that unfortunately this is not the first time that it's happening, and I'm even more worried now that every couple of months we're losing choppers. Several of them involved in Operation Shujaa. There was another one lost in Somalia, and instead, when you talk to some of Uganda's partners, they'll tell you some of the significant concerns they have. You hear rumors in the corridors of, army generals who are buying apartments in Nairobi and all these things, and you wonder, I mean, this should be the work of counterintelligence, but now you can clearly see where the problem is. If CMI and all these other entities are in on the game, then there's a lot at stake for the country. So for me, I don't know if this is the beginning of a cleanup of the
Nairobi. Someone said
over the
someone said South Africa, not Nairobi.
The people I spoke to said Nairobi. Yes. So the president previously was okay with corruption because he thought that the thieves who steal this money invest it in Uganda. Well, apparently some of his generals are investing it in outside of the country.
Interesting. So interesting or worrying? Honorable Dom, interesting or worrying?
Well,
there was no appetite to speak.
But I know languages.
There's nothing to teach you.
Because when President Museveni says at least the people who are stealing are investing in Uganda, as Kwezi said, now this is a different perspective. Yeah. He has no appetite to speak.
Yeah, the IGG has made her attempt to come up with the reports, but unfortunately she hasn't also come up with very specific ones on certain issues. But now that there is an investigation,
but she received the instructions about certain people who should, especially within the army, who should not be. The Minister
of Defence, through the members of Parliament, to come up and give a statement on this matter, to give assurance to the people of Uganda that all that should be well is well.
So thank you. He said, he doesn't have appetite to speak. Thank you, Star Cafe, for powering the gang. Thank you very much, Star Cafe. Thank you, Honorable Ssemujju. Thank you, Honorable Ddombo. Thank you, Mr. Kwezi Tabar. We've missed you. Thank you, Mr. Malcolm Mpamizo. We have missed you. We have Rough Cuts coming on next with DJ Nyowe.